Welcome to Le Podcast de Philippe. And today we are going deep into a fascinating area, the world of car manufacturing. And specifically, a really cool development that's happening. We've gotten some articles from you about this, and it seems like robots and AI are being used in ways we haven't really seen before.
Right.
The articles you shared really focus on the collaboration between UB Tech and Zeker.
Yeah.
So we really want to explore how these robots are not just putting cars together like we've seen robots do before, but
yeah, they're getting more sophisticated.
yeah, like they're working alongside human teams and they're even learning from each other.
Like collectively, yeah.
Which is kind of wild.
Yeah.
So I guess what we're going to try to do in this deep dive is understand how this impacts how cars are made, like how efficient can production get with these new robots? And then maybe even more broadly,
the big question.
Yeah, what does it mean for the future of work
exactly
in this industry?
Absolutely.
And, before we really jump in, I do want to remind everybody,
please,
if you're enjoying these deep dives, we'd love for you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to hit that 1,000 subscriber mark today. So your support really means a lot to us.
Every little bit helps.
Exactly.
To keep bringing these conversations to you.
So let's get into it. This is pretty exciting stuff.
It is very exciting. We're talking about advanced robotics. We're talking about AI, and all this is happening in a sector that, has been around for a long time. So to see this kind of integration and innovation, it's really, really significant.
Yeah.
And the articles that you shared really dive into that partnership between UB Tech, a company that's really been at the forefront of robotics and artificial intelligence.
Right, they're doing it for a while.
And Zeker, they're an electric vehicle manufacturer.
Right. And they're pretty new on the scene, right?
Relatively new, yes. But they've already made a name for themselves with their forward-thinking approach.
Yeah, I remember seeing some of their vehicles, and they look really, really cool.
Yeah, they are.
And they're definitely pushing the boundaries with the technology in the vehicles.
Absolutely.
So the fact that these two companies are collaborating, it kind of signals
it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal because they both have these strengths in their respective areas.
Right.
And bringing them together, I think, is where the real magic happens.
Yeah, and what makes it even more interesting is the way these robots are designed. I mean, we've all seen robots in factories. They're usually doing one specific task.
Right, like welding or painting, something like that.
Exactly.
Looking very repetitive.
But these robots are designed to actually interact with human workers.
Like work side by side?
Side by side, and even interact with other robots.
Oh, wow.
So it's not just about automation, it's about a collaborative environment.
Right. So they're more like teammates than just tools.
Precisely.
That's really interesting. So let's talk about these robots a bit more. One of the articles mentioned UB Tech's Walker S-Series robots, and they sound pretty impressive.
These are not your typical industrial robots. These robots are incredibly versatile.
I was reading they can do all sorts of things.
Multitasking to the max.
Yeah, like they can do final assembly, they can sort components and even do quality inspections.
Which is really fascinating because, in a traditional factory setting, you would need specialized robots for each of those tasks.
Right, like each one would have its own little station.
But these Walker S robots, they can switch between tasks, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah. And I guess that's where the AI comes in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They have sophisticated AI that allows them to adapt to different situations. The factory floor can be unpredictable.
Right. Things change all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But these robots can adjust to those changes, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And one thing that really stood out to me in the articles was the whole idea of these robots having a sense of their surroundings. Like they can see and feel things in a way that I guess normal robots can't.
That's right. It's called multimodal perception.
Multimodal perception, okay.
And it's a game changer because it means these robots have 360-degree vision so they can see everything around them.
Wow.
And they also have tactile sensing so they can feel objects.
So they're not just blindly grabbing things.
Exactly. Yeah. They can sense the shape, the texture, the weight of an object.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And that really helps them, I guess, to be more precise and to avoid damaging anything.
Exactly. And this is all made possible by the AI that's driving these robots. The AI allows them to reason, to coordinate their movements in a very complex way.
And I think one of the articles even mentioned that they're using a large language model or LLM in these robots, which sounds super advanced.
It is. And it's actually very significant because LLMs are known for their ability to understand and generate human language.
So it's they can almost think like humans?
Well, in a way, yes, they can process information, they can understand instructions, and they can even adapt to new situations.
Wow. So it's not just about programming them to do specific tasks. It's about giving them the ability to kind of figure things out on their own.
Exactly, and that's a huge step forward in robotics.
Yeah. And one of the things I was thinking about is like, if they can understand human language, that means they can communicate with the human workers in the factory.
Absolutely, and not only with human workers, but also with other robots.
Oh, wow. So it's like they have their own little network.
Precisely.
That's really fascinating. So they can coordinate with each other. They can communicate with humans. It's like a whole new level of interaction.
Yeah, it's a really dynamic environment, and this is all made possible by the technology that UB Tech has developed.
Right. And the articles mention some pretty impressive specs for these robots. Like they have something like 41 servo joints.
Yeah, that's right. And servo joints basically control the robot's movements.
So like more joints means more flexibility and more range of motion.
Exactly. And 41 servo joints, that's a lot.
Yeah?
It gives these robots a level of dexterity that is really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. If they're going to be working alongside humans, they need to be able to move in a very human-like way.
Absolutely.
And they're strong, too. Like, they can lift some pretty heavy objects.
Yeah, up to 15 kilograms, which is not bad for a robot with a humanoid farm.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So we're talking about advanced AI, advanced mechanics, and they're all packaged into this, human-like form.
It's a really cool combination of technology.
Yeah, and one of the articles I think specifically talked about Zeker's factory. It's called like a 5G smart factory or something like that.
Yeah, the 5G smart factory.
And they're using dozens of these Walker S1 robots in this factory in different areas of production.
Yeah, areas like final assembly, collaborative sorting, and quality inspection.
Wow. So they're really putting these robots through their paces.
They are, and the smart aspect of the factory is really important here.
What does that mean? Like, what makes it smart?
Well, basically, it means that the factory is highly interconnected. Everything is connected through a network, and that network uses 5G technology for really fast data transfer.
So the robots can communicate with each other really quickly.
Yeah, and they can also receive information from other systems in the factory, things like sensors and cameras.
So it's like they have a constant stream of information about what's happening around them.
Exactly. And that allows them to make decisions and adjustments in real time.
Wow. So it's not just about the robots themselves. It's about the whole ecosystem that they're operating in.
Right. The whole environment is designed to be intelligent and adaptive.
And I guess that's where the concept of swarm intelligence comes in, right?
Yeah, swarm intelligence is a really fascinating concept.
Yeah, I remember reading about that in one of the articles.
It's basically the idea that you can achieve a higher level of intelligence by having multiple agents working together.
Agents like the robots.
Exactly, the robots in this case. And UB Tech has developed a software framework called BrainNet.
BrainNet, okay.
And BrainNet allows these robots to share information with each other in real time.
So it's like they're all connected like a hive mind or something.
In a way, yes, they can learn from each other's experiences and they can coordinate their actions to achieve a common goal.
And one of the articles mentioned this idea of like an internet of humanoids, which sounds kind of futuristic.
It does, but it's actually a very real concept. It's basically the idea that all these robots can be connected through a network.
Like the internet, but for robots.
Exactly, and this allows them to share information and learn from each other on a much larger scale.
Wow, so it's not just about the robots in one factory. It's about all the robots everywhere.
Potentially, yes. And that's where things get really interesting because if they can all learn from each other, they can improve much faster.
Right, it's like collective learning.
Exactly. And one of the key things that enables swarm intelligence is the advanced joint planning and control system that UB Tech has developed.
Okay, what does that do?
Well, basically, it allows the robots to coordinate their movements very precisely. So, for example, if you have multiple robots working together to lift a heavy object, they need to be able to distribute the load evenly, and they need to be able to move in sync.
Right, otherwise they could drop it or damage something.
Exactly, and this joint planning and control system allows them to do that.
So it's like they're all choreographed or something?
In a way, yes, they're working together seamlessly.
That's really cool. And another thing that stood out to me was the whole tactile sensing and adaptive control technology.
Yes, that's a very important feature, especially in a manufacturing environment.
Because not everything is like perfectly shaped, right?
Exactly. You have objects that are deformable or fragile.
Like wires or maybe like soft materials.
Exactly. And these robots need to be able to handle those objects without damaging them.
Right. So they need to be gentle.
Precisely. And that's where the tactile sensing and adaptive control come in.
So they can sense how much pressure to apply.
Exactly. They can adjust their grip strength in real time.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's like they have a sense of touch.
In a way, yes. And that's a big deal because it allows them to work with a much wider range of materials and components.
So with all these capabilities, I mean, what kind of impact are we looking at in the automotive industry? Like, what's going to change?
Well, the potential impact is huge.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a lot is going to change.
For one thing, production cycles are likely to become much faster.
So we're talking about building cars more quickly.
Exactly. And that's because these robots can work much faster and more efficiently than humans.
Right.
And not only that, but the quality of the vehicles is also likely to improve.
Because robots are more precise.
Exactly. They can perform tasks with a level of accuracy that humans can't match.
And that could lead to fewer defects and fewer recalls.
Absolutely. And then, of course, there's the cost factor.
Right, because robots don't need salaries or benefits.
Exactly. So using robots can significantly reduce manufacturing costs.
Which could then lead to lower prices for consumers.
Potentially, yes. Yeah. And it could also make the industry more competitive.
Right, because if you can produce cars more efficiently, you can sell them at a lower price.
Exactly. And you know, this is all in line with the growing demand for high performance and eco-friendly vehicles.
Right. People want cars that are both good for the environment and fun to drive.
And these technologies can help make those cars more affordable and accessible.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think one of the articles mentioned that UB Tech has some pretty ambitious goals in terms of automating their factories.
They do. They're aiming to reduce their reliance on human labor from 30% down to just 10%.
Wow, that's a huge reduction.
It is. It's a very significant shift, and it raises some important questions.
Yeah, like what's going to happen to all those workers?
That's right. It's a very real concern, and it's something that we need to address.
Yeah, I mean, technology is great, but we also need to think about the human impact.
Absolutely. We need to make sure that people are not left behind.
Right. We need to find ways to retrain them and help them find new jobs.
Exactly. And that's going to require a lot of collaboration between governments, businesses, and educational institutions.
So it's a complex issue with no easy answers?
It is, but it's something that we need to start thinking about now.
So we're coming to the end of this deep dive, and it's been really fascinating to learn about this collaboration between UB Tech and Zeker.
It's a really exciting development.
Yeah. And it's clear that we're seeing a major shift in the automotive industry.
Absolutely. These are not just experimental robots. They're actually being used in production lines right now.
Yeah. And it's not just about making cars faster or cheaper.
It's about a fundamental change in how we think about manufacturing.
Yeah. It's about the relationship between humans and machines and the future of work.
Precisely.
So I guess the big question for our listeners is, you know, as these technologies continue to evolve, what role do you see for human workers in these increasingly automated environments?
It's a question that we all need to grapple with.
Because it's not just about the automotive industry, it's about all industries.
That's right. This is a trend that we're seeing across the board.
So it's really a conversation that we need to have as a society.
Absolutely.
You know. All right, so that's it for this deep dive. I hope you found it informative and thought-provoking.
Me too. It's been a great discussion.
And as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic. So please leave a comment below and let us know what you think.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already.
We're almost at 1,000 subscribers.
Yes. Your support really helps us keep making these deep dives.
So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.